The reboot of Prince of Persia that was released in 2008 is underrated, at least in my opinion. From the look of it to its playstyle, I was so on board with everything I was seeing from the game, making it one of my most anticipated games of that year. Comparatively, it was pretty different from the Prince of Persia games before it, from the art style to the partner system and even the parkour aspects, slightly being altered for a different flow of world traversal. There was a lot of pushback from fans of previous Prince of Persia games thanks to a multitude of reasons, but I like to look at this standalone Prince of Persia game as something unique and different from all the others around it. The biggest addition to get used to in the game was having this partner character that is controlled by the computer that works with you and sorta acts like the sands of time, being the reason you can reverse time or essentially just never die in the game, which led to the game being labeled too easy or simple. But the game was released for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 on December 2nd, 2008 in North America, and today I wanted to revisit this game 15 years later to see how it holds up and talk about what I initially really loved about it and what happened to it.
Welcome back to the 25 Days of Fringe-miss, where there's going to be brand...
Wait. Double Fringe-miss. Aw, you only thought you were gonna get 25 videos this year? Look at you. You look silly. But I'm here to fix that because I'm going to give you not only 25 videos, but I'm giving you 50 videos. I have 2 channels. That's 2 Fringe misses. Each day there'll be a brand new video on both channels for 25 days. I haven't slept in months. Enjoy the content. Or don't. So gameplay-wise, there is still a level of familiarity here when it comes to what to expect from the Prince of Persia series. The game revolves around the player utilizing acrobatic and parkour-esque skills to traverse the environment, with a balance of combat and puzzle solving mixed into the gameplay. The game focuses more on this open-world exploration format, allowing the player to explore anywhere in the world that they want to with some limitations, along with experiencing any part of the plot that they want to experience first, and depending on how the player decides to progress through the game, the environment will change to make it more challenging for the player the next time that they come across previously visited locations. This gives the game a lot more life to it and makes you feel more in control of what you're doing and makes the experience more dynamic to the player and your options. When a player heals a spot of the land, which is your main goal for the areas that you are exploring, all of the traps, which are seen to be manifested forms of the corruption, vanish. For combat, acrobatics can be used to vault over enemies or launch them up into the air to continue attacking. Your computer-controlled partner Elika helps out a lot in various forms, from traversal to reach harder to get to areas to performing some really cool moves together in combat when initiated. And like I said, you can't really die in this game. If you are going to, it only looks like that until Erica reaches out her arm to save you from doing so, keeping you alive and continuing on. But with those basics, what is the plot of the game? Why are we restoring lands from corruption, and why do we have this partner with us in the game to help us get through it all?
Prince of Persia. In stores now.
The game starts off with the prince alone making his way through a sandstorm in search of his donkey. Through this, he ends up literally running into Elika, a princess who was at the time fleeing from soldiers, leading to both of them fighting off the soldiers together, and during this fight, Elika discovers that she has these magical powers of light. Both the prince and Elika make it to this temple, which was used to house Ahriman, an evil force known as the God of Darkness, who was trapped within the Tree of Life. When they make it inside the temple, the king, Elika's father, confronts both the prince and Elika, initiating a battle between them. However, after the fight ends, the king uses his sword to cut the Tree of Life, which then sets Ahriman free. As the prince and Elika make their escape out of the temple, they are both presented with the world around them being corrupted now. Then you will get introduced to a term that is said so many times in the game it's kind of a joke at this point, and that is the fertile grounds, and that they need to all be healed in order to bring the world back to normal. Your main big baddies in the game that occupy different areas are the warrior, the concubine, the alchemist, and the hunter, all of which are corrupted and unleashed through the power granted to them from Ahriman. The warrior was a king whose country was struggling for peace and had accepted the power of Ahriman to allow him to take down his enemies in return for peace to his people. But when the war came to an end, the citizens of the kingdom rejected him, as he had been turned into a tool of war. The concubine was a woman who was skilled in politics that took power away from men, but when involved with a man, she was beaten by another woman, being stripped completely of her beauty, leading her to to exchange her soul with Ahriman for the power of illusion. The alchemist was a scientist who was close to achieving immortality as his health was starting to decline, but when asking Ormazd, the god of light and the brother of Ahriman, for a longer life to complete his research, Ormazd refused, which turned him to offer Ahriman his soul in exchange for immortality. Lastly, the hunter was a prince who had enjoyed hunting, making a deal with Ahriman that in exchange for his soul, he would be granted to hunt a creature more satisfying than any of the ones he had hunted before. All of these characters are given detail for the world the game presents, and I think the lore in general is interesting and fleshed out a bit for what it is, but it also left me wanting so much more of it. And as you get further into the journey, it's shown that Elika had died before the beginning of the game, and that the king had brought her to Ahriman and asked him to revive her in exchange for his soul, making him one of the corrupted as well, and this is the leading reason as to why she has these newfound powers. Throughout the journey and gaining more powers for combat, after all the fertile grounds are healed and all the bosses are defeated, the prince and Elika return to the Tree of Life to imprison Ahriman. Yet again, they are confronted by the king, only this time he's now fully corrupted. But once defeating him in battle, he calls out Elika's name, turning away from both the prince and his daughter, and throwing himself off the platform they were standing on, causing Ahriman to rise from the corruption below as they begin to fight him. Erika realizes during the fight in order to seal Ahriman away, she must give up her life to finish the spell, as she ends up sacrificing herself to do so. After this, the prince takes Elika's body outside of the temple, remembering what Elika had told him about each of the 4 fertile grounds having a tree, which can channel the power of all the fertile grounds to the Tree of Life. The prince has a vision of Elika's father's deal with Ahriman to revive her, similar to the one they shared much earlier when they found out about this deal. And through a revelation of where these visions were coming from, the vision leads to it all being about choice, where the prince now wants to recreate the deal made by Elika's father, going on to destroy the 4 fertile grounds around the temple and return to the Tree of Life. There, he cuts it down and takes the light power Elika had used to heal the tree and placing it back within Elika's body, as she is resurrected by this power, leading to the game ending with the prince carrying Elika across the desert while the darkness from Ahriman envelops the world and the temple is being destroyed. And my god, what an unexpected and dark ending for the game.
This double Fringe Miss is brought to you by Gamer Subs.
Ah! Did I scare you? Probably not. But what should scare you is paying 10% more when you don't have to. You're supporting Gamer Subs, you're supporting me, and if you use code FRINGE, you get 10% off. You don't gotta pay that 10%. And if you're paying that 10%, I'm looking at you like this. Why? Code FRINGE. To not leave it off just like it was, making your character as the prince a bad or selfish individual, there was an optional expansion pack for an epilogue that was set after the main story, showing that the prince and Elika survived the corruption of the land and managed to find shelter underground. Elika becomes furious with the prince for putting the entire world in danger for the sake of saving her. Eventually, they find themselves battling the king again. In a final battle against the king, the prince finally takes him out, with him being impaled by spikes, and escape in an attempt to leave the underground palace that they took refuge in. And in their escape, Elika shows how frustrated she is with the prince, stating that she believes the evil being unleashed to bring her back was not worth it, with the prince stating that by freeing her, they could both stand a chance against Ahriman, making his intentions slightly different than just making it a selfish choice. Then Elika leaves the prince behind in search of her people, as the prince is last seen alone with Ahriman, who is now seeking revenge. It's still a pretty damned ending that leaves you on a dark yet hopeful note for what's to come next, but sadly, there is nothing that would come next. That was it for the series. There isn't a sequel, and the next Prince of Persia game would be a slight tie-in with the live-action movie in 2010. I mean, there is the Prince of Persia game that came out at the same time as this one for the Nintendo DS called The Fallen King that brings some more tied-in lore, but as far as a sequel or continuation of the story we got with the main console game, that was it. The reviews for the game were mixed, but there were plenty of positive reviews out there overall, and I find myself agreeing a lot with the people who did enjoy the game. It is significantly different in many ways to the Prince of Persia series, and I do love the whole series in general, so I can easily see why there is a big portion of fans out there that do not like this game. There is a repetitive nature here of going around to the areas in the game doing similar traversal and combat that feels a little too copy and paste after completing one area and moving on to the next. It seems that it really just failed to connect with a lot of players as something they wanted to see more of. Plus the story having a pretty dark ending that wasn't based on how the player made a decision, and then selling a DLC for the quote-unquote real ending a few months later led to people most likely not buying that DLC, even if the game did sell fairly decent. On top of that, the movie coming out with another, more back-to-basics Prince of Persia game alongside of it took any steam out of a sequel to Prince of Persia 2008. Visually, the game looks incredible, the cel-shaded style looks awesome, and the world itself does have some really cool locations, but it didn't leave you feeling like each area was unique enough to stand out in comparison to the others. Despite any of the positive praise or feedback towards the game overall, it was still really criticized for being too easy of an experience, with the platforming and combat in the game being considered basic and not fleshed out enough. I still really love a lot about this game and wish there was more to come from it, but I can see why there was a lot of dislike for it or those who wouldn't want to see the franchise focus back on this reboot. But like I said, for me, I have always enjoyed it. Even when I go back and play it, it's always still a fun time for me. I like to view it as a not Prince of Persia game when trying to get others to give it a chance, but I completely understand where any sentiments not in favor of it come from. Here's hoping that in general, the future of Prince of Persia is strong. The new one we are finally about to get looks pretty great, and a more on-brand return to form for the series, so I believe it will be a fantastic experience nonetheless. But there's always just going to be this place in my heart for Prince of Persia 2008. I can't help but love so much about this game and wish it just had a little bit more packed into it that others can love as well. But what about you? Were you ever a fan of the 2008 Prince of Persia reboot? Did you ever want to see more from it? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.